Welcome to Complete Histories, the channel where we go beyond dates and names and uncover the full story behind the people who shaped our world. Here, we don't just summarize history, we explore the ambition, the failures, the silent warnings, and the turning points that changed everything. In today's episode, we dive into the extraordinary life of Nikola Tesla, the visionary mind who helped power the modern world, yet died in isolation and poverty. From a gifted child in the Austrian Empire, to a young engineer chasing bold ideas across Europe, to the man who revolutionized electricity in the United States, and finally, to the forgotten genius living alone in a New York hotel room. This is not just the story of inventions. It is the story of brilliance without compromise, of ambition without strategy, of a man decades ahead of his time in a world that was not ready for him. Stay with us, because this is the complete history of Nikola Tesla.
The childhood. Nikola Tesla was born on July 10, 1856, in the village of Smiljan, then part of the Austrian Empire, now Croatia. According to family accounts, he was born during a violent lightning storm. The midwife reportedly called it a bad omen. His mother disagreed and said he would be a child of light. Whether myth or memory shaped by hindsight, the symbolism would follow him for the rest of his life. Tesla grew up in a disciplined but intellectually rich household. His father, Milutin Tesla, was a Serbian Orthodox priest and a talented writer who possessed a remarkable memory. He could recite long passages of literature without hesitation. From him, Nikola inherited precision in language and structured thinking. His mother, Duka Tesla, had no formal education, yet she was mechanically gifted. She designed and built small household tools to make daily labor more efficient. Tesla later said that his inventive ability came from her. She had the capacity to visualize objects in 3 dimensions, something Tesla would develop to an extreme degree. The defining emotional event of his childhood was the death of his older brother, Dane. Dane was considered the brilliant one, physically gifted, admired, and expected to succeed. When he died in a riding accident, the family was devastated. Tesla was only 5 years old. The loss created a psychological shadow. He grew up feeling that he had to compensate to prove himself worthy of the expectations that once belonged to someone else. From early childhood, Tesla experienced unusual neurological phenomena. He saw intense flashes of light, often accompanied by vivid internal images. When someone spoke a word, he would see a detailed mental picture of the object described. At times, these images were so strong that he could not distinguish them from reality. Instead of collapsing under this condition, Tesla trained himself to control it. He began using his mental imagery as a laboratory. If he wanted to build a machine, he did not sketch it first, he constructed it in his mind. He rotated it, he ran it. He let it operate for weeks internally, observing wear, imbalance, and inefficiencies. He corrected flaws before metal ever existed. This ability would later allow him to design complex electrical systems without traditional trial-and-error prototyping. As a child, Tesla also demonstrated an obsessive drive. He would become fully consumed by problems. If he began calculating something, he could not stop until it was finished. This intensity impressed teachers, but also isolated him socially. There were early signs of what would define his adult life. Extreme concentration, sensitivity to light and sound, a tendency toward isolation, a preference for ideas over people. He was not merely intelligent, he was structurally different in how he processed the world. Electricity fascinated him long before he formally studied it. Thunderstorms did not frighten him, they attracted him. He saw patterns where others saw chaos. To Tesla, lightning was not random destruction, it was structured energy waiting to be understood. By the end of his childhood, 2 things were clear. First, he possessed a mind capable of extraordinary internal visualization. Second, he was already slightly disconnected from the social structures that reward ambition. That tension between genius and isolation would only intensify.
As Nikola Tesla entered adolescence, His intellectual intensity became sharper and more demanding. During his years at technical schools, his talent for mathematics and physics stood out immediately. He could solve complex problems mentally, often faster than teachers could write them on the board. This led some instructors to suspect dishonesty, not realizing that Tesla was visualizing entire processes rather than following step-by-step calculations. Electricity became the central focus of his thinking. At a time when electrical engineering was still primitive, Tesla was already questioning its foundations. Direct current systems, widely accepted by engineers, struck him as inefficient and inelegant. The constant sparking, heat loss, and mechanical wear felt like signs of a deeper flaw. Where others saw limitations to work around, Tesla saw problems waiting to be eliminated entirely. While studying engineering in Graz, he encountered electrical machines that relied on brushes and commutators to reverse current. Watching them operate triggered a quiet obsession. He became convinced that mechanical switching was unnecessary. Instead, he imagined electrical currents that alternated naturally, creating smooth, continuous motion through invisible magnetic fields. This idea would later become the basis of the rotating magnetic field and the induction motor, but at the time it existed only in his mind. Tesla's adolescence was not balanced. His work habits were extreme. He studied relentlessly, often sleeping only a few hours a night. His mind seemed unable to disengage. Alongside his brilliance, he developed compulsive behaviors and sensory sensitivities. Loud noises felt overwhelming. Bright light caused discomfort. His nervous system appeared constantly overstimulated, as if his thoughts were moving faster than his body could endure. Eventually, this intensity led to collapse. Tesla suffered a severe physical and mental breakdown in his early 20s. He described hearing sounds amplified to unbearable levels and experiencing sensations that left him physically weakened. Yet even during this period, his mind continued working through technical problems, refining ideas he had been developing for years. The turning point came during a walk in Budapest. While reciting poetry, Tesla experienced a sudden moment of clarity. He later described it as a complete mental vision of the rotating magnetic field, fully formed and perfectly functional. In that instant, the problem he had been carrying since adolescence resolved itself. He could see how alternating currents, properly phased, could produce continuous rotation with mechanical contact. Despite this breakthrough, Tesla struggled to translate vision into stability. He left formal education without completing a degree, moving between short-term engineering jobs across Europe. Financial pressure, family loss, and professional uncertainty followed him, yet his core idea remained intact, growing clearer with time. By the end of his adolescence, several patterns were firmly established. Tesla trusted his internal vision above institutions and credentials. He believed that fundamental physics could eliminate mechanical limitations, and he showed little concern for the economic realities that governed technological adoption. The foundation of his greatest invention was already complete. What remained was finding a world ready to understand it.
When Nikola Tesla entered adulthood, his life shifted from internal vision to open confrontation with the industrial world. In 1884, he arrived in the United States with little money, a few personal belongings, and a letter of introduction. He was stepping into a society driven not by theoretical elegance, but by speed, competition, and profit. Tesla initially worked as an engineer, improving existing electrical systems. His ability to solve complex problems quickly made him valuable, but also difficult. He did not think in small improvements, he thought in replacements. This created tension. Tesla wanted to redesign systems from the ground up, while industrial leaders wanted immediate returns. Breaking away, he focused entirely on developing his alternating current system. Over the next years, Tesla transformed his adolescent ideas into working technology. He designed the induction motor, polyphase generators, transformers, and complete AC distribution systems. These machines operated smoothly, without sparks or excessive wear, and could transmit electricity over long distances with minimal loss. This marked the beginning of what later became known as the War of Currents. Direct current systems dominated the market, backed by massive financial interests. Tesla's alternating current was not just a technical alternative, it was a threat. AC made centralized power generation and national grids possible. It changed electricity from a local service into a scalable infrastructure. When AC systems proved successful in large-scale demonstrations, the outcome became unavoidable. Cities began to adopt alternating current, power plants expanded, factories modernized. Tesla's designs quietly became the backbone of modern civilization. During this period, Tesla reached the height of his public recognition. He was not just an engineer, he was a performer of science. In carefully staged demonstrations, he passed high-voltage currents through his body, lit lamps wirelessly, and produced dramatic electrical effects. To the public, it looked like magic. To Tesla, it was controlled physics. He moved rapidly beyond power transmission. He explored high-frequency currents, resonance, and electromagnetic waves. He built devices that generate extreme voltages and studied how energy behaved at different frequencies. These experiments laid groundwork for radio communication, signal transmission, and wireless technologies, even when the full implications were not yet understood. One of his most radical demonstrations was a remotely controlled boat, guided entirely by radio signals. At a time when machines required direct human operation, Tesla showed that commands could be transmitted invisibly through space. This single demonstration introduced the core concept behind robotics, drones, and automated systems. Despite his success, Tesla's relationship with money remained strained. He repeatedly gave up patent rights, reduced royalties, or accepted unfavorable agreements. He believed that technology should serve humanity broadly, not enrich a few individuals. This belief, admirable in principle, weakened his long-term stability. His most ambitious project was the attempt to transmit energy wirelessly on a global scale. Tesla envisioned a world system where power and information could be sent through the Earth itself, accessible anywhere without wires. He began constructing a massive tower to test this idea. The concept was technically daring, but economically disruptive. When investors realized Tesla's ultimate goal was universal access rather than controlled distribution, support vanished. Construction stopped. The project was abandoned. This moment marked a turning point. Tesla had reached the limits of what vision alone could overcome. By the end of his adulthood, Tesla had reshaped the physical world, but lost control of his position within it. His ideas powered cities, yet he held little claim over them. His name was famous, but his influence was fading. He had proven that the future could be built. He had not secured a place in it.
As Nikola Tesla entered old age, the world he had helped electrify no longer revolved around him. By the early 1900s, after the collapse of his wireless power project, Tesla's financial stability began to erode steadily. The grand tower he had built to transmit energy and communication across the globe stood unfinished, a physical reminder of ambition interrupted by economic reality. Investors had withdrawn. Industrial leaders moved forward with more commercially controlled systems. Tesla's vision of universally accessible energy no longer aligned with the direction of modern industry. Yet his mind did not slow down. Even as funding disappeared, Tesla continued proposing new ideas. He spoke about global wireless communication networks capable of transmitting messages instantly across continents. He described handheld devices that could receive information from anywhere on Earth. He outlined systems for remote automation and machine intelligence. Many of these ideas sounded unrealistic to his contemporaries, yet decades later they would resemble modern telecommunications and mobile technology. However, Tesla increasingly worked alone. Laboratories became hotel rooms. Staff became memories. He moved frequently between New York hotels, often unable to pay his bills. Some hotels accepted delayed payments out of respect for his reputation, others did not. His eccentricities intensified with age. He developed strict daily routines and strong aversions to certain textures and objects. He became deeply attached to pigeons, especially one white pigeon he claimed to love.
Feeding them in city parks became one of his few emotional constants. Despite isolation, Tesla remained intellectually active. He announced concepts for advanced defense systems using directed energy, claiming such technology could make war obsolete by rendering nations untouchable. He believed scientific advancement could deter destruction through overwhelming technological superiority. Yet public attention shifted elsewhere. New inventors and corporations dominated headlines. Industries built upon Tesla's early discoveries generated enormous wealth that rarely returned to him. His patents had either expired or been sold long before their full economic potential was realized. By the 1930s, Tesla lived quietly, supported in part by small stipends and occasional recognition from scientific institutions. Awards acknowledged his past contributions, but they did not restore influence or financial security. He died in 1943, alone in a New York hotel room, at the age of 86. There was no dramatic ending, no final speech, no grand farewell. Only a quiet conclusion to a life that had altered the structure of civilization. In the years after his death, historians and engineers began to reassess his role. The alternating current systems powering cities, the principles behind radio communication, the foundations of wireless technology, and the logic of remote control, all traced back, in part, to Tesla's early work. Old age did not diminish his ideas. It simply revealed how far ahead of his time he had been. His life closed in relative silence. His influence did not.
Nikola Tesla did not think in isolated inventions. He worked in systems, often decades ahead of the infrastructure needed to support them. Each project was revolutionary, not because it worked immediately, but because it redefined what was possible. The alternating current AC power system was revolutionary because it solved the single greatest limitation of early electricity: distance. At the time, electrical power could only travel short ranges before losing strength, making large-scale electrification impractical. Tesla's AC system used changing currents and transformers to step voltage up and down, allowing electricity to travel vast distances efficiently and safely. This made national power grids possible and turned electricity from a local novelty into a global utility. Without AC, modern cities, industries, and digital life would not exist. The alternating current induction motor was revolutionary because it eliminated physical contact between moving parts and electrical sources. Instead of brushes and sparks, it used rotating magnetic fields. This made motors more durable, efficient, and scalable. It introduced a new principle: motion created by invisible forces rather than mechanical friction. Nearly every modern appliance, factory machine, and industrial system still relies on this concept. The Tesla coil was revolutionary because it unlocked high-voltage, high-frequency electricity. Tesla wasn't trying to create sparks for show, he was exploring resonance. The coil demonstrated that electrical energy could be transmitted through the air under specific conditions. This experiment laid the groundwork for radio transmission, wireless communication, and modern signal amplification. It also allowed Tesla to study electromagnetic waves at a time when most scientists didn't fully believe they existed. Wireless communication experiments were revolutionary because Tesla conceptualized global information exchange long before radio was commercially viable. He transmitted signals without wires, proving that the Earth itself could act as a conductor. Tesla envisioned a system where information, music, images, and messages could be sent instantly around the world. This was not incremental progress, it was a complete redefinition of communication, anticipating radio, television, satellites, and the internet. The radio technology concepts were revolutionary because Tesla treated radio not as a novelty, but as a control system. He understood that radio waves could transmit commands, not just sound. This insight directly led to automation and remote operation, concepts that would only become mainstream decades later.
The remote-controlled boat was revolutionary because it introduced the idea of machines responding to invisible commands. In 1898, Tesla demonstrated a boat controlled entirely by radio signals. Audiences believed it was magic or trickery. In reality, it was the first practical demonstration of robotics, drones, and unmanned systems. Tesla had proven that machines could be controlled without human presence, a concept central to modern warfare, logistics, and space exploration. Wireless power transmission was revolutionary because it challenged the economic structure of energy itself. Tesla believed power could be transmitted through the Earth and atmosphere, making energy universally accessible. His experiments suggested that electricity could be delivered without wires, meters, or centralized control. Technically bold and philosophically radical, the project failed not because of physics, but because it threatened existing business models. The Wardenclyffe Tower project was revolutionary because it combined wireless power, global communication, and information transmission into a single system. Tesla envisioned it as a worldwide network, a prototype of a planetary infrastructure. If completed, it would have allowed instant communication and energy transmission across continents. The project collapsed when investors realized Tesla did not intend to charge users. It was one of the earliest clashes between technological possibility and economic interest. High-frequency and high-energy experiments were revolutionary because they explored how matter behaves under extreme electrical conditions. Tesla investigated X-rays, ionization, and electromagnetic radiation before these fields were fully understood. His work influenced medical imaging, material science, and plasma physics, even when his contributions were not formally credited. The mechanical oscillator and resonance experiments were revolutionary because Tesla demonstrated that small, precisely tuned vibrations could produce enormous effects. He applied resonance to mechanics the same way he applied it to electricity. This concept now underpins structural engineering, earthquake science, and signal processing. Tesla showed that scale is less important than frequency. Tesla's concepts for directed energy and defense systems were revolutionary because they reframed warfare as a technological problem rather than a numerical one. He proposed devices that could disable vehicles or aircraft using concentrated energy. While many of these ideas remain theoretical, they anticipated modern energy-based defense research and electronic warfare. What made Tesla's projects revolutionary was not just innovation, it was integration. He consistently saw electricity, communication, control, and energy as parts of one unified system. Most of the world caught up decades later, often without realizing they were walking along paths Tesla had already mapped. His projects were not failures, they were early arrivals.
Nikola Tesla died poor and alone, not because he lacked brilliance, but because of a rare and difficult combination of personal choices, economic reality, and growing isolation. His end was the result of how he lived, how the world worked, and how little the two aligned. Tesla died poor because he did not treat invention as a financial strategy. He believed technology was a gift to humanity, not a product to be controlled indefinitely. While others protected patents aggressively and built long-term wealth, Tesla often sold his rights early, reduced royalties, or abandoned profitable agreements altogether. To him, progress mattered more than ownership. He also rejected the logic of business power. Tesla thought in complete systems meant to transform society, not in incremental improvements designed to maximize short-term profit. This made him difficult for investors. When projects required large funding but did not promise direct control or predictable revenue, financial support disappeared. The most critical moment came with his vision of wireless, globally accessible energy. When investors realized that Tesla's goal was free or universally available power, energy that could not be easily metered or sold, they withdrew immediately. The project failed not because it was impossible, but because it was incompatible with the economic system of the time. As years passed, Tesla's patents expired. Companies continued to profit from technologies based on his ideas, but he no longer had legal or financial claims. The world ran on systems he helped create, while he received almost nothing from them. Tesla died alone because isolation was always part of his nature, and it deepened with age. He never married, never built a family, and rarely formed long-lasting emotional relationships. His loyalty was to ideas, not to social bonds. As his financial situation worsened, he lost laboratories, assistants, and collaborators. Work that once connected him to institutions and people was reduced to solitary thinking in hotel rooms. Without students, teams, or successors organized around him, he became intellectually active but socially invisible. His eccentricities intensified over time. He followed rigid routines, developed obsessive behaviors, and showed strong sensory aversions. These traits pushed people away. In contrast, he formed emotional attachments to pigeons because they were predictable, quiet, and required nothing from him except care. Meanwhile, the world moved on. New inventors gained recognition. Corporations replaced individuals as symbols of progress. Tesla, once seen as a man of the future, came to be viewed as outdated, even when many of his ideas were still ahead of their time. Tesla died poor and alone because he valued ideas over money. He refused to adapt to economic power structures. He surrendered control over his inventions. He gradually isolated himself from people. He was understood too late. He did not fail as an inventor. He failed, by choice, to play the game the world rewarded. And that is the quiet tragedy of his life. The man who powered the modern world could not secure a place within it at the end.